What's up, guys? I haven't done a video in a couple weeks, and just wanted to catch you guys up on some of the babies. And I was going to cover some of the ups and downs of just the breeding season that just passed, and then just the keeping reptiles in general. This is the female. Pretty much she's caused the most issues. We love her to death, but she's definitely trouble. When I started out, I bought my male, who's the father of basically everybody, and then a banded female, and I believe I got one of my other bells at the same time, and we had a young Mac Eclipse. They all came from Josh Spears at Monster Reptiles, sorry, I had to think about it, and then Packline was where the rest of them came from. So anyway, this girl right here is pretty aggressive when it comes to other geckos. She definitely, doesn't do well with others, and she attacked the Mac Eclipse. He was the only gecko that wasn't really the same size as the rest of the group. He should have never been in there to begin with, but she attacked him and he just didn't survive it. He was sitting in the water bowl when I got to him, and it was a female Mac Eclipse, but she just tore him up pretty bad and he didn't survive it. So I just assumed that it was the size. I mean, when I asked a couple people, that was the first thing they said. Oh, it was a smaller gecko, so they picked on it, and that was what happened. So anyway, I kept the cohabitating going. Really didn't have too many other issues. I would see the male breeding with them, and I knew that was going to be a little bit rough, so I wasn't worried about it. But eventually this girl nipped one of the other girls' tails, and I'm going to switch this. So anyway, this girl right here is the mother to the rest of any of the really cool radars, and that the one tangerine that came out really nice looking. But she was one of the first ones that got attacked by Allie, and she lost her tail. That's been gone for a while now. We had that issue, and like I said, I mean, prior to that, and especially the original time we owned leopard geckos, we always had some cohabitating that, I've never been an expert at sexing, but I knew we had all females the first time around because they were all pretty big, and they were more than big enough to tell. And never had an issue, so I was surprised when this one dropped its tail, and I knew right away because she was chased around right when I opened the cage after it happened, so they were still in the middle of scuffling. But anyway, it was pretty unfortunate because even though they all made it, she laid some really small eggs, when she was regenerating the tail. I have two males that I couldn't believe they did so well. They were both born under a gram, and they just really didn't look too good. They were really skinny. But anyway, she's held on fine. She did lose some weight on those last clutches, and she's eating and everything. The tail's, it's pretty fat. I mean, I know it looks short because it's a regenerated tail, but she definitely has regained some of what she lost. She was very thin at one point, though. I mean, it was scary. I definitely was worried about her. But anyway, that was an attack from Allie, like I said. So at that point, that was when we separated the females from the male, except for Allie ended up staying with the male. And this girl ended up all by herself in the banded female, even though she didn't really have any problems with anybody. She had her own cage also. She was also from the original group, and she's always done good. Never really had any problems with other females, but she's housed alone anyway because she's a big girl, and just it's just easier that way when you're collecting eggs and everything. You don't have to wonder, who laid what. Some of them do lay eggs pretty close to each other, and sometimes in the same day. So anyway, we put her all by herself, and like I said, she's done nothing but well for me. She's somewhere up around 90 grams. She was like 84 the last time I weighed her, and she's still got some pretty nice color for just finishing a long breeding season. But anyway, I tried to produce 3 different males with Allie in the beginning, and actually all 3 turned out to be female. But this girl right here laid her first 2 clutches, and we ended up incubating for another male. he hatched. He had a pattern very similar to a lot of the ones I had, just a little aberrant, just one broken band up top, but very similar to the mother here. And I see it posted, you know, not all the time, but I've seen it many times where people ask, like, can you use the Sterilite drawers, all the different things as cages, and we've attempted different things for different animals, but it's never really worked out well. But the worst case we ever had was with that male, and what happened was I had the heat tape in the back. Everything was good. The temperatures were pretty decent. You know, I had the hot spot in the back. The first like 3 inches were, you know, about 90. So everything was all good. And you know, everybody that was in here, you know, had the first couple babies started out in here, and then they moved up to different tubs. But anyway, he was the first one we ever had issues with. And I mean, the thing was slightly ajar. I don't know if I left it that way or if one of them managed to push the thing out of here. But what ended up happening was he was up in the top here. He got down behind the other shelf, or the other drawer, I'm sorry, and he fell into this one where a much larger gecko was. I mean, he was a newborn. He was only a couple days old. I've never even actually got video footage of him. I've only got like one or two still pictures. But anyway, he climbed over the top. He fell into one of the other cages, and the other gecko just completely ate the thing. There was nothing left. I came in, I heard a little bit of shaking around, and that was what made me check the cage, but there was nothing but blood on the back wall there. So he wiggled down. The thing must have saw him. He probably looked just like a little worm or something, and it just drug him right in the cage and ate him whole. So anyway, that was when we did away with this as an actual enclosure. I do use it all the time for cleaning purposes. It's great to hold them in temporarily, but it's nice to have it. I mean, these marks are all from tape. I like to put a little piece of tape on either side just to be safe. But anyway, I definitely would not advise that as a cage. But we're going to throw this girl back and we're going to keep on going. So in the meantime, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but we did hatch plenty of eggs. It was a great time. I got to see tons of hatchlings actually come out right in front of my eyes. We got plenty of them on video and everything. But the next little issue was genetics. In the beginning, like I mean, I learned a lot, but I didn't realize how much of an issue it was with other people mixing up the albino strains and not keeping good records. And I didn't realize that basically anything in the pet store was not really worth breeding, and I wasn't a part of any of these groups at the time. So anyway, we bought a Blizzard, or it could have even been a Murphy's patternless, but a Blizzard or Murphy's patternless looking gecko, and then what looked like a Tremper albino, but could have been any of the three. Anyway, in the beginning, I didn't realize, before anybody really started dropping many eggs, I think Allie had just laid her first clutch. I didn't realize how quick they were going to get pregnant. I've had ball pythons for years and been trying to breed them, once they got up to size, but even with some of the girls being up to size, it took a whole another year. This is the first year we actually got eggs. So the last thing I was expecting was to house some geckos together and have eggs right away. And like I said before, I only owned females in the past, so never even crossed my mind that almost immediately we were going to start having gecko eggs. So when we got the Blizzard, she got pregnant by my male. These are all fathered by the same father of all the visual bells. But these would just be hets, and they're hets for whatever the mother is, and then who knows, they could even have other albino strains in them. So we ended up, she had like 4 clutches, I believe, altogether. So we gave away quite a few of them. I actually gave away the Blizzard and the other Craigslist gecko, who was a male visual albino. Like I said, I'm not sure which albino, but he never fathered any babies. We just had him as a pet, and then he went to the same home as the first 2 babies like this, and then their mother. So anyway, we gave away a whole bunch of geckos, and I was really happy, and the girl was really happy to get them. And then unfortunately, the male, who was the biggest gecko I ever owned at the time, I don't know if he had any giant blood, but he was just a real hefty gecko and long too, and he ended up going on a hunger strike for about a month or so. I don't even know how long exactly before she finally got him to eat, but I gave away one of the best eaters and the biggest geckos I had, and he ended up not eating forever and caused a lot of trouble. But anyway, everything else went fine as far as her babies and everything. I gave another set away to a different customer, and he was nothing but happy with them. I believe he has one, his neighbor has the rest. But anyway, wasn't that big of a deal, but it's just another thing. It's not that easy to get rid of pet quality geckos, you know. And once I started learning, you know, more about everything, I realized right away that these guys weren't going to really be worth, I mean, they're awesome pets, but as far as any kind of breeding projects, that, you know, they weren't going to be able to be involved in anything. So, like I said, we gave most of them away, and really most of them came out banded like this anyway, and they were fairly normal. So, you know, besides that, they were babies that I hatched. I really didn't have that much attachment to them. So, just another thing to try to avoid. I mean, if you have any plans of possibly breeding, even on a small scale, I mean, I would definitely suggest spending the money with a known breeder who has good genetics and who keeps good records of everything, because you don't want to end up with things that you're not really shooting for, you know, and you don't want to ruin projects with albinos that you don't want and mixing strains and all that crap. So anyway, we'll put these two girls away, and I've said it before, I always take pictures of them randomly. These girls are free, just like the rest of them. I'd rather give them away to somebody local that I could just meet real quick, but we will be shipping soon. I am going to get on top of that very soon. So anyway, you could always contact me about them, but as of right now, we still don't have shipping available. So anyway, like I said, I mean, we had a lot of good luck throughout the season. Almost all my eggs hatched. I only had a few go bad, and we only actually had two that were pretty late into the incubation and died, where they actually had something you could see inside. Most of them were just goop that died in the beginning, and they died right away. But the sibling, or the one that would have been the sibling to this, passed away. And that was a pretty formed gecko. It had the head and body and everything, and it hadn't gotten the color yet or whatever, but the egg was just way too small. It sunk in right away, and the thing just didn't make it. So this is the only survivor of a female that I will pull out for a second, but she's really not doing too good either. She's very thin. She stopped eating immediately after she started producing follicles, and I put her in with my Bell male. The ovulations looked pretty big. I thought, you know, it was a long shot that I would even get a baby or a fertile set of eggs on the first try. And, you know, like I said, I did, but the one went bad. So anyway, this guy popped out, and like I said, she's a she was sold to me as a Jungle Bell, possible head eclipse. She's from a different breeder. We didn't get her from Pat or anybody that we've ever gone to before. He was kind of a small-time guy, but he really seemed to know his stuff, and he knew the right names to throw around and everything. And I was pretty sure I got a nice deal on a Jungle Bell. But anyway, this popped out, and I was just in shock at first. You know, I saw this solid-colored gecko, and then next thing I know, I'm like, oh man, it's black. And it's a snow also, so she wasn't even supposed to be a snow, and I know my male is not a snow. So anyway, the only thing I could think of is that possibly my black pearl, because I do, it's very common, I'll put two of the females together when I'm cleaning, and the black pearl goes in with her all the time. And you know, it was sold to me as a female, and it was pretty big when it was sold to me, so I didn't really bother checking too many more times. So anyway, we checked it out, and I even took pictures to confirm online that it's definitely a female. And you know, like I said, there's no way that could be the father to this baby, because it's a female. And it was very unfortunate. This thing's pretty cool looking, and it's one of only two snows that I even own. So it would have been cool to have been able to use this thing, but unfortunately, this would be double head for it's obviously a head bell because of my male, and then whatever the female actually is. which is a shame. Like I said, it's a really cool gecko, and I definitely would have used this to breed if it wasn't this, if this wasn't the case. But anyway, this is another really small baby. This one dwarfed even the other two babies. It didn't even hit a gram until not too long ago. It's only about a month old now, and it's still very, very tiny. I'm surprised it even made it. We did actually eventually have to force feed it in the beginning, and then that was when it dropped the tail. He was totally fine with me force feeding him. It didn't really fight it at all, and then when I went to set him back in its cage, it leaped off of my finger only about 3 to 4 inches, and when it landed on its back, and it immediately flung the tail around until it popped off. I left the tail in and it did consume it, so I would always suggest that, especially with a small gecko, because that might have been part of what kept this thing alive. This is the jungle female that laid that egg. Like I said, she started ovulating, and I saw it. I put my male in there with her, and I was just happy to get one good clutch of eggs. And I knew there was going to be trouble getting any more out of her because she stopped eating, and she really hasn't ever recovered eating since she I don't know, I would say she takes a couple worms every day. She really lost interest in the super worms. It seems like every once in a while I get her to take one, but then it doesn't seem like she'll take one for another couple days. But we're working with her, and it's not the first skinny gecko I've rehabbed, but it's just another thing that you gotta watch out for. I mean, there's really no way of controlling this. Some of them just, when you start breeding them, they, even though she was only paired with a male one time, so it wasn't like a whole lot of stress, but the stress of carrying the eggs and all that is too much, and a lot of them will lose interest in food, and they're just not taking care of themselves. It's not like you want to hold down a pregnant female and force feed her, so you just gotta hope they bounce back. And I do offer different treats. I mean, I don't like giving pinkies to them really, because it's not really too good for them, but I've offered her pinkies and a few other things, and she will eat them. But anyway, I mean, I'm not, I'm bummed out about the money, but it's more, I'll probably keep this girl as a pet just because I always really liked her, and she's, I mean, I'm such a sucker for jungles. She's still got a lot of color, even as unhealthy as she is right now. But it's just a shame I won't be able to breed her. I'm not going to go through the trouble of test breeding her and all that. Obviously she's not a bell, but it just, I don't want to take the chance. Obviously the guy was either flipping geckos, or he just didn't care about keeping track of genetics. Now, in the beginning I didn't have a ton of money to invest, so I did end up buying possible head eclipses instead of actual visual radars. But I was very fortunate to hit on radars on my first two babies, and then I've had quite a few since then. So everything that I've ever bought from Pat as a possible head eclipse has proven to be head eclipse, which is awesome because it's always a gamble, obviously, when you're buying possible heads. But I have this cool radar, the smiley face one, which I love, and then a couple more. And all these were, all the original ones, the first like 5 to 7 babies were all from Allie, and she just produced a ton of really cool babies, a whole variety of stuff. I bought her more for the jungle stripey kind of pattern she had, and I wanted to reproduce that, and I would have been happy to just get one radar out of the bunch, and I ended up getting quite a few, and I got some stripe radars and a few jungles. They were pretty nice. So like I said, the original game plan was to hopefully get a couple of nice striped geckos, a little more of a clean stripe than the mother. Hers is just more just like a jungle pattern, and I'd be happy to get a radar. So eventually I finally hatched out this one, and this is one of Allie's babies also. And this girl loves the wag her tail. I think it's so funny. It mostly seems like my males do that, but she's a little bit timid. So anyway, I finally hit on a nice stripe radar. It's got a pretty nice clean stripe all the way down to the butt, and a little bit of a banded tail. But I was just ecstatic when I got this one. I knew it was a keeper right away, and I couldn't have been happier. This would have been more than enough for me. I really would have loved to do this out in the light because their purple definitely shows a lot better out there in sun porch. But anyway, I'm going to pop out the other one real quick. So when I hatched that girl out, I had already hatched out about 4 or 5 radars, and I was pretty impressed with that alone. And then I managed to pop out another really nice stripe. If anything, I would say this one has a little bit nicer of a stripe, a cooler head pattern, and the purple definitely shows a lot better when she's out in the sun. The stripes from end to end are just really bright purple. So anyway, like I said, I thought I hit the jackpot the first time around, and this one came out. So then, about a few clutches later, I had this girl, and it was pretty cool because at that point, I think that was when I proved out all of my females to be head eclipse. And I always really liked this one. Its color's a little dull right now, and it's definitely not showing too well under these lights, but she had nothing but like red outlining around every bit of pattern. It was like a thin red outline, and it was really bright through most of her life. She's probably about 4 months old now, I think. But anyway, it has started to fade, or what am I saying? She's about 3 months, 3 or 4, something like that. But it has started to fade. She, just like the others, when she's out in natural light, she still has some purple left in there. But she's definitely lost a lot more than her siblings. But another cool pattern, more of a jungle than a stripe, but I love the tail. I love the busted up tail with the big round markings. So anyway, at that point I thought I had already hit the jackpot numerous times on genetics. And I'd seen pictures of these before, you know, different patternless stripes and pretty cool reverse stripes and stuff like that. And you know, I always thought these were just you know, basically from one really tangerine gecko to another, but this is actually the one that got her tail nipped is the mother to this. And then, like I said, you've all seen my father's just a banded, pretty bright yellow, but no real tangerine on him. And I was just blown away when this completely tangerine gecko, and it's got the spine itself is like a super bright orange stripe going down it. The purple didn't really come out. When it was born completely purple almost, except for where it's you know, the fat pouches down the bottom would be that was showing clear or whatever, like transparent, but everything else was completely purple. Even the tail had a purple look, and within one day it totally transformed. I believe that was just from a low oxygen level when it was in the container, but anyway, it was a pretty cool transformation overnight. And now this thing's pattern's starting to fill in. The head pattern looks pretty sick, and it just looks awesome. The stripe goes into the tail. It's just a really cool gecko. And initially, I mean, you know, I know my ball python genes pretty well and everything, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on all that stuff before I even got into the leopard gecko morphs. But I didn't really think this was possible. I mean, I'm used to you know, the patterns combined and everything with them, but basically if you breed a spider and you get a spider byproduct that's gonna have a spider pattern, I didn't really realize that basically anything in the patternless stripe and stripe you know, category or whatever could throw pretty much all kinds of variations of all this stuff. I just thought if you bred 2 banded geckos together, you were gonna get more banded geckos, and you know, whatever, you might be able to produce stripes repeatedly, but I didn't realize that there's such a variation in pattern. So to get something like this was just totally mind-blowing for me. I was, you know, this should have been the last baby of the season. That female, the jungle female that produced the little snow guy, that thing ovulated way late in the year. And I thought this was it, and this was going to be my last clutch until the season coming up, and I couldn't have been happier. So anyway, like I said, not all bad. The ball pythons, we really didn't have too many pitfalls. We had a couple respiratory infections in the beginning. My one Mojave from Royal Constrictors, he came to me healthy. He was healthy most of his life, but once he got his first respiratory infection, he just couldn't get rid of him. Everybody else did fine for a long time, and he just kept repeatedly getting sick and eventually died. But other than that, we've had nothing but healthy snakes. And I finally had my first clutch of ball python eggs. So I'm gonna put the clip up of that because I forgot to share that before, and then that'll be it. But like I said, it wasn't all down. I mean, I would do it all again. It's always hard losing a pet, you know, no matter what their value is. It's you know, it's a life. It's you know, priceless basically. So even the pet quality geckos and all that, it was a shame, you know, giving them away and everything, and dealing with all that. But all in all, I mean, I would just say, like I said, stick to breeders that are pretty well known, or at least somebody who can prove where their geckos came from, and they have a pretty good track of the lineage of the geckos.